Hello! Okay, we're back, and today we're making the oatmeal milk and honey soap. And in this container, you have the organic oatmeal that has been grounded, mixed with clay. Grabbing my stick blender, I'm going to blend everything together so that the organic oatmeal and the clay is well distributed in the oil. Blend it really well because you don't want any clumps of this powder to be only concentrated in certain amount in certain part of the soap. As a result, you will have the specks of oatmeal visible throughout the soap, not in just certain area but whole of the soap. That's what we want. And now I'm grabbing the lye water solution and pouring it slowly down to the stick blender so that I don't get more air bubbles. And as you can see, I did tap my stick blender so that any air bubbles trapped in the shaft will be released. On extra note, my oil is at room temperature and my lye is at 31 degrees Celsius. Notice that I did not mix them for too long, just to get them fully incorporated, and then I'm adding my 5% of super fat, which is coconut milk in this case. 5% may seem very little, but trust me, it is enough to make a great soap. And if you are not careful with your soap calculation and adding more super fat into your formula, you may end up with a problem. And again, I did not mix for too long, just to get everything incorporated, and that's enough. I did pre-mix my honey with fragrance oil because I want my thick honey to be well dispersed. Oh, and by the way, I'm using oatmeal, milk and honey fragrance oil by Soaplab Malaysia. And just to be sure that all the honey are well dispersed, I'm using my spatula and just swirl around the batter so that I get no clumps of thick honey. I really make sure that I do tap the stick blender every time before I start using it, just to be sure that there's no air bubble trap anymore. Today I'm using honey as my additives in this soap. If you're using such additives or maybe salt or sugar, you may not want to stick blend your batter for too long, because this will make your soap become harder faster, and you don't want that if you want to do any design on your soap. If not, otherwise it will be just fine. It is easier to pour a liquidy soap as compared to pouring a very thick stubborn soap, but that all depends on what design you're trying to do with your soap. And today I'm going for a plain Jane simple oatmeal, milk and honey soap, so a thick soap would not be necessary. I will never ever leave any soap in my picture. I will scrape everything out. I can go downtown with this, and it may take a while sometimes, as long as I get everything out into the mold. And now I'm grabbing my spatula, just tapping over the surface of the soap gently so that my corners of the mold will all be filled with soap, so there are no air pockets. Sorry for the shaky image here, looks like there's an earthquake, but this is a normal routine for a soaper. And I did tap my mold a few times so that I get all the air bubbles out, just to be sure. Now it's tidy up time, just to clean all the edges of my molds. So in pictures they look lovely, that's all. One thing great about using sweet additives into your soap, such as honey, it makes your soap batter to set up pretty quickly, and as you can see here, I can make patterns already. If your soap is pretty liquidy, or we call it a light trace, it's really hard to get this, it's kind of impossible actually to get this kind of effect or texture onto the surface of your soap. Light trace is when you try to make this pattern, but the batter just slowly flattens out back to its normal position. I'm doing this pattern just to show how creamy this soap formula is. Even after it dried up and hardens up, it still looks creamy on the top. Last year's design for this particular soap uses bubble wrap, but there are some of you who have fear of seeing bits of holes onto the soap and does not want to buy it even though they really want to try my soap. So I stopped using bubble wrap, and here it is, my oatmeal, milk and honey soap.